Aliko Dangote has spent the last 20 or so years converting his trading empire into a manufacturing conglomerate that is now spread across 18 African countries. So he's in a unique position to gauge the impact of the current global downturn on African economies. And he's here with me today at the FT Africa Summit. Mr. Dangote, how are your businesses weathering this downturn?
Well, I think businesses are weathering the downturn very, very, very well. Because we've been diversifying our own, business for a very, very long time. And I think what is needed right now in the country or in various countries is the diversification of the various economies. Because in trying to go the traditional way, that might not really work. Because if you look at it, one of the biggest issues that we've had in Nigeria is everybody was sort of relying on oil. And, with that, for us, it benefited us even quite a lot. We're building a refinery and petrochemical. So today we'll build them cheaper, like what I said earlier on. And, it's not the end of life if we're taking a downturn, because it's like a graph. That's how business is. But you always have to be ready for good times and also for bad times.
But to what extent would you say that the demand for some of the basic commodities that you produce, like cement for construction, flour, sugar, is driven by the world price for the natural resources that Africa exports and that contributed so much to government revenues?
Well, the cement, for one, the consumption might go a little bit down, because of, government revenues, in some few countries. But in Africa, they've always had a deficit. So we might not really see too much of a change. Maybe worst case scenario, we might have the same numbers as last year, because the growth needs to be there, because we really don't have much infrastructure in Africa. So if the governments now will try to take that opportunity by building a lot of infrastructure, it will help, because that is really what fuels the growth of the economy. I mean, you cannot really have, an economy going without a good infrastructure. So in other words, today, do I think it's good the prices of oil, went down, or commodities generally? I think it is good, because it is going to now wake us up and make sure that we look at other areas of diversifying the economy and not rely on some of these few basic, raw material. We should try and convert those raw materials into finished goods, so that when we export them, we will be earning much, much more. Government should try to see, okay, fine, how do we really attract people to come in and invest, because the opportunities are enormous. It's not only in oil or in copper or in coal. I mean, there are so many areas. I mean, you look at it today in Africa. In agriculture, you're going to make huge tons of money, because we have 60% of the world's arable land. So with that, you cannot really go wrong. And you go back and look at countries like Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, all these countries before, they were living on agriculture. Okay, but unfortunately, oil came in and everybody thought, well, look, we've had enough. Oil is good enough to give us all what we needed. There was no zeal in terms of growing the other various sectors. So people just jump on oil, and even somebody who is just a peasant farmer in the village want to take a bit of, a cut in terms of getting his own oil share. So that's really what destroyed, some of our, economies. But right now, things are bouncing back.
But practically speaking, your share price has taken a bit of a hit over the last 18 months or so. You've also presumably taken a bit of a hit because of the depreciation of the Naira currency in Nigeria, where most of your biggest businesses are. Has that affected the amount of capital available to you to continue expanding your businesses?
No, we never really use share price as a barometer of our growth. You know, when you look at it really, if you are going to concentrate and look at only share price, you'll never be able to work. But I think the most important thing is the fundamentals of the business. If this business fundamentals are good, if the fundamentals are good, then you go ahead. You know, it is actually the confidence level that will push your price share up or down, or people, if they do understand what you are trying to do. We've been caught actually on Nigeria's, you know, this, because if you look at it today, people are not looking at, yes, this is Dangote cement, for example. It's a very good business. They're, you know, expanding. We believe that they will do well. No, they are looking at, no, Nigeria. And people have already have this fixation in their head that, no, the currency has to be devalued again. So with that, people are not really coming in with their money to invest in the country.
So there's been a loss of confidence.
A bit of it.
But you are, at the moment, putting together one of the largest ever investments in Africa and in Nigeria with your petrochemicals, fertilizer and refinery. Is it on schedule? Just very briefly.
Yes, it is. It's going to be on schedule. The refinery, we schedule it to be in 2018. When you talk about a refinery, you just think that, yes, it's just an ordinary refinery. You know, William, today the refinery we are building is the largest ever single train in the world, not in Africa. Yes, it's 650,000 barrels. You know, even the Reliance, when they started, was 500,000. You know, in terms of models, yes, maybe they built that now, they are at about 1.3. But our own is a single line of 650,000, which is by far much more than the consumption of Nigeria. So we have to try and sell within the, you know, West Africa. Yes, we are not really, we didn't agree to stop. We've started. And even at $50, $45, the numbers make quite a lot of sense. What we just need to do is to try and squeeze our budget and make sure that we build it below budget and also on time.
Mr. Dangote, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, William.